The #1 team in the nation was wildly upset by Stephen F., not Stephen A., Austin, at home in overtime. It was Duke's first non-conference loss on their home court since 2000. Now, guys, can we just simply say it's early, no biggie? Or, Max, does Coach K have something to prove?
Yeah, Coach K has something to prove. I mean, both things you just said are true, but the thing I take away, of course he has something to prove. Not that he's not everyone knows he's a great coach. I'm not talking about that. This is not just another great coach. This is the gold standard. Stephen A., who's the greatest coach in the history of college basketball?
Mike Krzyzewski.
Right. It's Wooden or Krzyzewski, right? I mean, like, Krzyzewski in the modern game has won in, things were different then, right? But we're talking about, the greatest coach ever with UCLA and everything. But in Duke, in modern basketball, it's really, really, really hard to do what he's done. You think about the great coaches or the greatest coaches of this era, at least, Krzyzewski is right there. So we're not just talking about one of the contenders for the top spot. Of course he has something to prove. All the time, Stephen A., like Nick Saban, has something to prove. Not that he's necessarily slipping, but all of a sudden, there's another coach winning as much as him and against him, and Dabo Swinney. All of a sudden, he's getting the brakes beat off him in the national title game. He's getting upset at home by LSU. All of a sudden, does Saban have something to prove? Well, yeah, not that he's not we know he's great, but is he still #1? Is Krzyzewski the best coach in college basketball still? Are we sure about that? I don't know about that. I know Jay Wright he at least won a game where he lost most of his players and won a game, and before that won 2 of the last 3 national titles. I don't know that Krzyzewski's still the best coach in college basketball, Stephen A.
Well, listen, you could say that. I would tell you this. Tell me that Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K, has something to prove because they haven't won an NCAA championship since 2015. Okay, I understand. Considering the multitude of All-Americans that you've had at your disposal. I understand that. Outside of that, I don't want to hear that, especially not based off of last night's game. It's college basketball. It's a game in November. It's early in the season, okay? It's not the NCAA tournament. It's not one and done. It's going to have little to no effect on their season whatsoever. And not only that, particularly when it comes to kids, I would remind you that a guy by the name of Cam Reddish came on this show and confessed on national television one of the biggest reasons that he had a problem last year was because he was busy eating pizza all the time, eating pizza and burgers and all of this other stuff. They're not worried about it. Is entirely plausible that the same team that beat Kansas to start the season, the same team that had just beat Georgetown and others, she sees Stephen F. Austin on the schedule.
By the way, that wasn't must-watch TV. I didn't sit down and watch that game live or anything like that. And when I saw it come across, I thought they were talking about you at first. I thought, what, Stephen A. Smith said something about Duke?
That's right.
We're going to have to talk about this on the show tomorrow.
Right. Exactly.
Stephen F. Austin.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, come on. You're taking it for granted. It's entirely plausible, particularly basketball season. It's not football. Football, you only got about 12, 13 games during the college football season, particularly when you're a nationally ranked team. This could cost you, particularly when you got the playoff system to take into consideration where only 4 teams going to be picked. You got to take that into consideration. But with March Madness, the ACC competition, North Carolina up the road having the crew that it has, all of this other stuff, Stephen F. Austin, right before Thanksgiving.
Are you seeing cracks in the Krzyzewski wall?
No.
I'm seeing little. Is that a crack right there?
No. If that's the case, they'd be a national champion right now.
Well, while it certainly doesn't mean panic for Duke, let's make sure we give Stephen F. Austin their proper credit for pulling off an amazing upset.
They did.
Absolutely.
Good job, Stephen. Oh, Stephen F. Austin.
It's the kids.
Stephen F.
It's about the kids.
Okay.
We want to give the kids congratulations to Stephen F. Austin.
This was a huge deal.
You deserve it. Just don't expect me to lose any sleep over Duke losing a game in November. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.